Hello and welcome to lesson 4 of week 11. In this lesson we are going to look at CSS multiple columns. My name is Mildred. For this lesson I have created an about page and we are going to do the illustration on the about page of the web page we are trying to build. Now the home page takes us to the home and then the about page links us to the about page. I have written the text in the main content area and then we are going to illustrate multiple columns in this content area of the page. In CSS, to define multiple columns, we start by writing a property called the column count property, and this property gives us the number of columns that we want on the page. I'm going to create a style called news, and I'm going to use the column count property and I'll specify 3 for instance. When I save this, I'll go to my about page and then I'm going to come to the text I want to span over multiple columns and put that style class equal to news. Save this, refresh my page, and I have this in 3 columns. So when you use the column count property, you specify the number of columns that you want. So if we want 2, I'm going to say 2, refresh, and I will have 2 columns. So this is how to create multiple columns in CSS. But we have other properties that we can use to enhance this column. For instance, we want to have a defined space between the columns. We are going to use the column gap property, written like this. And then we'll specify the size of the space we want. Let's say we want 20 pixels. I will save this, refresh, and we'll have a defined space between the columns. If we want to have like a line between the columns, we have a property called the column rule style property that we can use like this. So let's say we want a dashed line. Save this, refresh. We want to control the thickness of this line. We are going to use a property called the column rule width property. And let's say we want it thin, we'll use 1px. Save, refresh, and we have that thinner. We want to also put a color for this. Let's say we want it to be red. We are going to put a column rule color and we'll specify the color. Save this, refresh, and we use the color. We have a shorthand property for this, which is called the column rule property, and instead of having these 3, I can use column rule, specify the width I want it to be, let's say 1px. This time let's say I want it to be dotted, and I want it to be let's use blue. Save this, refresh, and I have it in one declaration on the page. Let's say I want to define the columns by width instead of writing the column count, the column gap, and then the column rules. I want to use the width, which overrides all of this. I'm going to use the column width property like this and specify a width for the columns. So this will automatically divide the text into columns based on how wide the container is. So I'll save this, refresh my page, and it gives it 5 columns because the width can take 5 columns. If we change the width of this to be 200 pixels, we'll see that our number of columns will reduce because it can only take 2 using 200 pixels. So these are the properties that we have. We also have a column span property where we can put on a heading to specify if the heading stays in one column or the heading spans across all columns. So try this out to see how to use the different column properties. It's very easy to use. You use this when you want to have like a news page, or you want to divide the page into newspaper articles and the likes. So this is where we end this week's lessons. Thank you and see you next week.